So with Monster Hunter World's release, a lot of veteran players have left the old generation games behind and made the transition to a more beautiful, clean, more story-driven game, the new focus of Capcom. And with the release, there also comes a lot of new hunters because this is the first time a Monster Hunter game has appeared on the PlayStation 4. But this isn't the first time that Monster Hunter was available for a PlayStation console. Now with the old games now collecting dust for many, or never being played because a lot of new hunters just don't want to downgrade and go to those kind of graphics, or get another console just to play them, there's a lot of really cool and really badass monsters that many new hunters are missing out on, and a lot of monsters that us veterans wish were in Monster Hunter World. Now because this is an extremely successful game for Capcom and it's the latest installment of the Monster Hunter franchise, this is going to be their new focus. And it is confirmed that we will receive updated quests and new monsters, but we have no clue what monsters will be added to the game. Will they bring back old school monsters? I feel like they will, and I really hope they do, but there's a very long list of monsters I really hope to see return, and I decided to make you guys a list of 10 monsters that I would like to see return and to be added to Monster Hunter World. Keep in mind, the graphics or what you're about to see in this video are going to look shit compared to Monster Hunter World, but that's because these games are from the PSP systems, Monster Hunter Frontier, which was on the PC, and you're also going to see some games from the 3DS. Now if you're new to the game and you've came across some of the Elder Dragons already in Monster Hunter World, these are actually not new. Some of them, yes, but some of them were actually from older generation games. Rathalos and Rathian have also been in other Monster Hunter games. But I'll shut up now and I'll just tell you guys which 10 monsters I hope will make an appearance in Monster Hunter World. This list is in no particular order, so it's just 10 monsters I want to see. So to start off, I would really like to see Zinogre. Now Zinogre is a Thunderwolf monster, and if you just look at it, I mean, he's fucking badass. He was first introduced in Monster Hunter Portable 3rd, which was available in Japan for PSP. My favorite area to fight him in is the Primal Forest, because during the fight you get to see cherry blossoms falling in the air in some of the areas, and it's just a really epic and beautiful fight. Another monster that I would like to see added is Yama Tsukami. This is an elder dragon, believe it or not, that looks like a giant floating octopus or starfish. He was first introduced in Monster Hunter 2. Now Monster Hunter 2 was only available in Japan, or it's also known as Monster Hunter DOS, and it was available for PS2, so he was actually released or introduced very early on in the Monster Hunter franchise. My first encounter with him was in 2G, which was for the PSP. Now he has been remade with a different engine, and he's in Monster Hunter Online, which is the Chinese MMO version of Monster Hunter. So as you can see here, they have remade him, and there's also a raid to fight him in, so you can take on more than 4 players with you for this quest. I do feel like we will eventually see some quests in Monster Hunter World that allow you to take more than 4 players, usually for bigger monsters, and these fights are just all around epic. Fatalis is another Elder Dragon that is one of my favorites. This is one long neck ass monster. Now he has different variants, as do most monsters. You have the Crimson Fatalis, which you fight in a lava like area, and he has one really big horn. But you also have the White Fatalis, which is my favorite. Now the White Fatalis is my favorite because when he's enraged, the throat and the chest of him glow, and it just looks like he has blood on his fur. So in my opinion, I just feel he's one of the coolest monsters to date, and I think he'd be a really nice addition to World. Ankentor is another one of my favorites. He's actually one of the first biggest monster fights I've had. Now Ankentor is huge, he has these tusks, and you usually fight him in a lava-like area. They call it the Lava Canyon, and the first game he was introduced in was Monster Hunter Portable 2, also known as Freedom 2 for the PSP, which was the first Monster Hunter game that I've sunk, I don't know, 1,000 or more hours into. Eukamlos is the way I like to say it, so if you guys are like, oh, it's not the right way to pronounce it, I don't care. He closely resembles Ankentor in body structure, but he's pretty much the ice version of this guy. And guess where you fight him? Well, I mean, you can kind of see it. You fight him in the snowy mountain peak. If I remember correctly, it's a very similar battle to Ankentor, and I just like his design as well. I just feel he's a very massive brute wyvern, and it was one of the hardest battles I've ever encountered. I remember me and my friend fighting this guy together, and it was always my friend who would just die. And the fight always took somewhere from 40 to 50 minutes. We almost ran out of quest time every time, but I remember farming this guy and it being such a pain in the ass because my friend would die over and over and pretty much make us fail the quest, but yet he was the only guy I can play with who had a PSP in Monster Hunter. So this brings back some very frustrating memories, but he was also one of my favorite fights. And then we have Cryy. Now you're looking at this thing and you're like, what's so special about this? He's pretty much a meme, to me now at least. A very weak monster. There is this other version of him that's pretty badass and actually looks very sinister, but Cryy himself is like just one dumbass chicken. I like this guy because he was my favorite monster to speedrun. I used to use the hammer, and as soon as you start the quest, he would always be in the second area from the first camp. Or actually the only camp, this isn't world. And it would take less than a minute to finish the quest. I'd go in, I'd break his face with my hammer, and I would just test myself and see how fast I can get the run done. And breaking his face or his beak, it always felt very satisfying, so this is one of my favorite fights, and I just hope to see him in World, and hope to break his face again with my hammer. Espinas was a monster that was only available in Monster Hunter Frontier, which is the Japanese PC version, the first Monster Hunter PC game, which was also like an MMO. It played very similar to World as far as grouping with people in a hub. And I remember jumping onto the PC version, onto Frontier at a very young age, and playing foreign games was much harder around this time, but I remember seeing this case. I remember downloading the game and going through hours and hours of setup and VPNs, not really understanding what a VPN was at the time. But he was always a monster that I wanted to fight. He was the flagship monster of Frontier. I never got to fight him because I never got that far into Frontier, but I would love to see this monster in World. So just thinking about this monster brings me back to a point in my childhood where I was first discovering PC games that were online. And I remember the hype that I had for Monster Hunter at that time, the drive that even made me go through VPNs at the age of 13. Nakarkos is an elder dragon, or elder dragons, and as said on the wiki, the most unique feature is its self-made covering of bones, which is used to protect and camouflage itself, so it looks as if you're fighting a monster from a nightmare. Its first appearance was in Monster Hunter Generations, also known as X in Japan. I really liked its design. It was my first time seeing a monster that had such a creepypasta look to it, and with the rotten veil, you guys can't tell me that this wouldn't fit in the game perfectly. Then we have Dalamadur, which I like to call Dalamander. This is an elder dragon. I believe it's the biggest elder dragon as well. Now almost everyone who's playing World and is familiar with the other titles says that the Rotten Veil is just Dalamadur's body. The Rotten Veil is a place where monsters go to die, and you can see a ton of very large bones that are the rotten bodies of elder dragons. But if you actually look at the Rotten Veil, you are walking on top of one big skeleton. Maybe we could actually see this monster in the game, and I hope so, and if so, it'd be nice if they made it a raid. And then last is Tigrex. Now Tigrex was the flagship monster for Monster Hunter Freedom 2, or Portable 2nd. Tigrex is just, he's my baby. The best way to describe it is a tiger and a T-Rex, or a T-Rex with tiger stripes. He's just a very aggressive, very angry when in rage monster. Now just imagine that being remade with World's engine. So these are the 10 monsters that I would like to see added to World, my personal 10 favorites. So if you're familiar with this series, what monsters would you guys like to see added to Monster Hunter World? Let me know in the comment section below, and I will catch you guys in the next video. See you soon, friends.